All right. Couple of just programming note first. As you all know, following the informal meeting on Cyprus, following the informal meeting on Cyprus in a broader format that was held in Geneva on the 17th and 18th of March this year, the Secretary General is convening another meeting that will get underway later today and tomorrow with the Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot leaders, as well as representatives of the guarantor powers, Greece, Türkiye, and the United Kingdom. The informal meeting will start with a welcome dinner this evening here at headquarters. The meeting will provide an opportunity to continue the dialogue and exchange views on the progress made since the meeting in March. Tomorrow morning, the Secretary General will hold bilateral meetings with the heads of delegation. This will be followed by a plenary meeting and a working lunch. The concluding session will take place tomorrow afternoon. I also want to flag this evening at 6:50 p.m. there'll be a photo opportunity ahead of the welcome dinner. If any of your photographers or camera people want to cover it, please go to Malu offices at least 30 minutes in advance. There'll also be another couple of photo opportunities tomorrow, which will all be in the media alert that will go out. Turning to the events that we're seeing unfolding in Syria, particularly in Sweden, I can tell you that the Secretary General is alarmed by the continuing escalation of violence in Sweden, which has reportedly claimed the lives of hundreds of people, including civilians, and injured and displaced many more. The Secretary General unequivocally condemns all violence against civilians, including reports of arbitrarily killings and acts that fan the flames of sectarian tensions and robs the people of Syria of their opportunity for peace and for reconciliation after 14 years of a brutal conflict. The Secretary General extends his heartfelt condolences to all Syrians and reiterates his call for an immediate de-escalation of violence and urgent measures to restore calm and facilitate humanitarian access. The Secretary General does take note of the statements issued earlier today by the Office of the Presidency of Syria condemning the violations and committing to investigating and holding to account those responsible for them. We reiterate the Secretary General's appeal for transparency in this process. The Secretary General further condemns Israel's escalatory airstrikes on Suwaida, Dara, and in the center of the Syrian capital, Damascus, as well as reports of Israeli Defense Forces' redeployment of forces in the Golan. He calls for an immediate cessation of all violations of Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity and for respect of the 1974 Disengagement of Forces Agreement. The Secretary General reiterates it is imperative to support a credible, orderly, and inclusive political transition in Syria in line with the key principles of Security Council Resolution 2254. Also want to tell you that our special envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, is working the phones in the midst of this crisis, and his deputy, Najat Roshi, is in Damascus and is actively in communications with various parties. On the humanitarian front, our colleagues are warning that the deadly hostilities are continuing to put civilians at risks, with the ongoing reports of a significant displacement and damage to critical infrastructure, including water, electricity, and telecommunications networks. Our resident humanitarian coordinator for Syria, Adam Abdelmullah, said that we and our humanitarian partners plan to send a delegation to assess the needs and provide essential services in Sweden as soon as the conditions allow and in full cooperation with the relevant authorities. However, our humanitarian colleagues also warned that access to impacted areas remains severely constrained due to insecurity and due to road closures. Civilians are reportedly unable to reach facilities designated as collective shelters. In parallel to this, our partners warned that medical services are overstretched, including in neighboring Dara Governorate, where hospitals are almost at capacity. The World Health Organization has dispatched emergency medical supplies to Dara to support the trauma care that exists there. Deliveries to Suwaida remain pending, obviously due to security access. Turning to the situation in Gaza, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that small quantities of fuel entered Gaza yesterday via the Karim Shalom crossing. Severe supply shortages continue to threaten to halt our operations to support vital facilities such as hospitals, medical points, and other type of equipment, including telecommunications, water desalination plants, and sewage treatment plants. Yesterday, in northern Gaza, our partners rehabilitated a well to try to address the critical water shortage. Although this will hopefully support patients and medical staff with hundreds of cubic meters every day, it is far from sufficient to meet people's needs. We and our partners also reiterate that hundreds of thousands of liters of fuel are critically needed every single day to help alleviate the crisis and address the dire situation that we tell you about every day. Meanwhile, our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs also warned that amid the ongoing hostilities and deepening hunger, people are still risking their lives to access a trickle of food and other essential items allowed in for their survival. Just this morning, we've seen horrific reports of dozens of people killed or injured at one of the Israeli militarized food distribution hubs. In the past weeks, severe injuries continued to be reported among people seeking aid. The World Health Organization reported one instance where a 21-year-old man was paralyzed for life after being shot while trying to collect a bag of flour from one of these militarized food distribution hubs. That's only one of the many heartbreaking stories. As you can imagine, there are so many others. Meanwhile, months of escalating hostilities have increased the risk for the most vulnerable, including people with disabilities and older people who struggle to access what they need to survive and become even more isolated. More than 80% of people with disabilities in Gaza have lost wheelchairs, they've lost hearing aids, they've lost walkers, and many other devices they need to live their lives. That's what a survey done by one of our partners is telling us. With their mobility restricted, the denial of access to humanitarian aid, discrimination, stigmatization, and exposure to explosive ordnance are only some of the many challenges vulnerable people face. Meanwhile, the UN Population Fund warns that domestic violence, sexual exploitation, and abuse are on the rise. Several safe spaces, which offer shelter, psychological support, and coping mechanisms for women and girls, have shut down or functioning at reduced capacity. UNFPA tells us that the conditions in Gaza are harrowing for women and girls. Pregnant women are delivering their babies in the dark with no electricity or no skilled care to address potential complications. This week at the Al-Mawasi in Gaza City, our partners treated more than 1,200 pregnant and breastfeeding women and children with severe and moderate malnutrition in their clinics. Our colleagues on the ground tell us that after 4 months of sweeping Israeli restrictions, the entry of humanitarian assistance into Gaza, nearly all displacement sites report people sleeping in the open with no means of protection. No shelter supplies have been allowed to enter in this period. We once again underscore that this catastrophic situation must end. A ceasefire is long overdue. We need massive amounts of humanitarian aid to enter Gaza now, and we need to see all of the hostages released now. At 3 p.m. this afternoon, the Security Council will convene for an open briefing on the situation in the region. Tom Fletcher, our Emergency Relief Coordinator, will brief the Council, as will Kathy Russell, the Executive Director of UNICEF. They will update you on the humanitarian situation. A number of you had asked about the upcoming anniversary of the MH17 downing, and I can tell you that tomorrow we will mark the 11th anniversary of the downing of the Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 over eastern Ukraine, and the 298 lives tragically lost on that day. The Secretary General stands in full solidarity with the families of the victims, and he honors their memory. Pursuant to Security Council Resolution 2166, the Secretary General urges all states to extend their full cooperation to ensure that those responsible are held to account following the important work of the Joint Investigative Team. Turning to Sudan, another tragic situation we cannot forget. And I want to update you on the horrific situation of children. I can tell you that the threat of spread of cholera and other diseases looming large in parts of Sudan as childhood immunization rates are plummeting to their lowest levels in decades. According to data published by our colleagues at the World Health Organization and UNICEF, more than half of all infants in Sudan, that's at least 880,000 babies and toddlers, missed last year their first dose of vaccines to protect children against diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. Our colleagues are sounding the alarm, saying this is the lowest immunization rates in a country in over 40 years. Vaccine coverage has dropped from 94% in 2022 to just 48% this year. That's from 94% to 48%. The sharp decline, driven by the ongoing conflict, obviously, is fueling outbreaks of deadly but preventable diseases such as measles and polio. Despite the enormous challenges, UNICEF delivered 16 million doses of vaccine for children under the age of 1 in the first half of this year, including more than 3.5 million doses that went to Darfur. But far more is needed to avert a deepening public health catastrophe. Meanwhile, our humanitarian colleagues warn that the cholera outbreak in North Darfur State is intensifying. In the locality of Tawila, which hosts about 330,000 human beings displaced from Zamzam camp that were displaced since April. More than 300 cases have been reported in just over 2 weeks, according to our partners on the ground. With limited treatment facilities, the rising number of severe cases is overwhelming health workers. In the locality of Kadada in North Darfur State, a separate suspected cholera outbreak linked to contaminated water has already reportedly claimed 5 lives. To make things worse, there are no treatment centers left in the area, and health facilities are not functioning. The ongoing movement of people raises the risk of further spread, including towards West Kordofan State. And worsening situation even further, severe funding shortfalls are depriving the most vulnerable in Sudan of much-needed support. In northern state, the closure of 2 mobile clinics on the border between Egypt and Sudan on July 14th left displaced people without access to basic health care. The clinics had served some more than 2,700 people since mid-May, but the funds needed to keep them open have now run dry. We continue to call for urgent funding to help scaling up the required assistance and responding to the growing humanitarian needs across Sudan. As a reminder, Sudan is in the midst of the rainy season, which obviously increases fears of the spread of diseases, but also the lean season when already devastating levels of hunger could rise further. And turning to the situation in Haiti, where we once again warn that hunger continues to deepen across the country. The flood crisis compounded by ongoing violence, which disrupting local food production in areas such as the commune of Kenskov and Artibonite departments. The region are often referred to as Haiti's breadbasket. As we mentioned, as of May, more than 5.7 million people in Haiti are estimated to be food insecure, with many unable to meet their basic food needs. That's what our humanitarian colleagues are telling us. We and our partners are responding, however, and whenever we can. Between January and May, more than 1.1 million people received emergency food distributions, while nearly 247,000 others received support to restore their agricultural livelihoods, strengthening their resilience. In addition, 242,000 people sheltering in displacement sites receive hot meals. But overall, we've been able to reach just 38% of the people we aim to support on food security this year. That's 1.33 million out of 3.4 million in total. This is due to ongoing violence, to insecurity, severe underfunding of the response, and the obvious access challenges. As of today, Haiti remains, unfortunately and sadly, the least funded of the many humanitarian appeals that we coordinate. Funding shortfalls for food security in Haiti are even more extreme, with just over 2% of the $425 million we need received to date. OCHA continues to work closely with partners to scale up food assistance. However, we just need more money to be able to do our work to reach those people who need it. And lastly, and another humanitarian tragedy, I can tell you that in Myanmar, We continue to be deeply concerned over the plight of civilians caught up in intensifying conflict. Over the weekend, a displacement camp was reportedly hit by an airstrike in northern Shan State, resulting in casualties last Friday. An airstrike reportedly struck a monastery in Sangang Township, killing 22 people and injuring at least 50 others. The monastery has been providing shelter to displaced people who had fled nearby villages. These incidents are part of the broader pattern of attacks affecting people across Myanmar. There are frequent reports of people being killed, injured, or displaced by violence, as well as increasing attacks on civilian infrastructure. The insecurity obviously impacts our ability to deliver humanitarian assistance to people in need. Humanitarian needs are on the rise, with 1 in 3 people in Myanmar now facing acute hunger, and the current monsoon season having caused flooding. We urgently and once again call on all parties to respect human rights, international humanitarian law. No money, no quiz, so I'll go straight to questions. Edie, Pam, and then Bisan.
Thank you, Steph. A quick follow-up, 2 quick follow-ups. One on Myanmar. Does the Secretary General condemn these airstrikes on monastery and civilians in Myanmar?
Clearly and unequivocally.
And secondly, with the meeting tomorrow of the Greek and Turkish Cypriot leaders, you've mentioned a number of video and photo ops. Will there be any opportunity for the media to talk to both leaders, and will there be some kind of an outcome document?
Well, if there is, there would need to be an outcome to have a document, so let's not put anything before the horse, or whatever the expression is. Let's wait to see what happens tomorrow. Yes, there will be a number of media opportunities. Those will be outlined in the media alert tomorrow. I mean, media opportunities for people such as yourselves, Edie, Letter, to ask questions. But that'll be in the media alert, and obviously it'll be rather fluid tomorrow. Pam.
Thanks. You mentioned that the Secretary General condemns the attacks in Syria against Druze, and looks, is happy about the cessation of tension or ceasefire that's been announced. You didn't mention the ceasefire. Okay. Has the Secretariat, anyone attempted to reach out to the new government about, I mean, I know you're condemning it, but about sectarian
Yes, I mean, this has been a recurring message that both Mr. Pedersen has delivered when he was in Damascus, and a constant message that his deputy Najat Roshdi also continues to deliver.
All right. That's all I need. Thank you.
Bisan.
You did read the statement condemning the strikes that happened today, but just going back probably to some of the statements coming out of the Israeli government, basically calling for the elimination of the interim president of Syria, given the airstrikes. Is there something else you can add?
I think I was asked the question about the statement from an Israeli minister yesterday, and I think we were very clear in our condemnation of that statement. I mean, what this situation doesn't need more inflammatory statements, more calling for the elimination, the killings of individuals or of groups of individuals. We've seen these ceasefires be announced and then being ignored. It is important that the fighting stops. It is important that all Syrians, regardless of their nationality, their confession, or any other criteria, feel safe and feel protected by their government. That's why we've taken note of the announcement from the presidency about an investigation. Well, obviously, we want to see the results of that investigation, and we want to see accountability. Deji, and then Ibtisam.
Also on Syria, because we know, I mean, everybody saw the airstrike on the defense ministry in Damascus. Just wondering, is anybody from Secretariat reach out to Israel to talk about the escalation.
As I said, Mr. Pedersen is in touch with various parties.
So he also in touch with Israeli.
He's in touch with various parties.
Okay. The Israeli government said they are doing this because they are protecting Jews. Do you think this is how to say that, a good reason to
Look,
launch the strike?
We are against any violation of Syria's territorial integrity, and I think we said that clearly. The primary responsibility of the protection of Syrians living in Syria, which includes the Druze, other minorities, whether they be Christians, Alawites, or Kurds, is that of the government of Syria.
Couple of months ago, when there's regime change, I remember clearly that for several times you said that this is a very fragile moment for Syria and Syrian people, and everybody should help Syria to rebuild their country. What about now?
I think what I said then applies now. Ibtisam and then Sinan.
So I have also a follow-up on Syria, and you condemned first on the investigation that the Syrian government announced. Do you have, from your point of view, do you believe there should be also independent investigation, or
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off.
and or whether you believe
Yeah.
it's in the process that the Syrian government is doing, and you're
I think
satisfied with it?
in line with what I said to Deji, the primary responsibility of protection of citizens of a country belongs to the government. They have said they've condemned the violations. They said they were committed to investigating and holding to account those people. I think it is important for us that there be transparency in this process. Transparency means buy-in. That means people will believe it. So let's see what they do, and we will be keeping a close eye on that development.
On Syria too, you condemned the Israeli attacks and on Suwaida and Dar'a and Damascus. I guess my question here, how do you think these attacks, that they are not new, I mean, and expansion in the Golan and other places, affecting your work in Syria, whether on political level or even humanitarian work and other issues?
Not helping is the obvious answer, right? It's making our political work more complicated. It's making our humanitarian work complicated. I mean, this whole situation, anywhere where there is violence, there is airstrikes, makes the UN's work, both humanitarian and political, that much more challenging and complicated.
My last question, I don't know if you saw an Israeli, a Jewish Israeli professor, and he's a scholar of Holocaust and genocide studies, Omer Bartov. He published an op-ed in the New York Times talking about why he believes Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. I know that the Secretary General in more than one occasion said that he's not going to give a legal opinion when it comes to the issue of genocide, because he's waiting for the ICJ. But the question is, you constantly talk about past genocides last week, and the importance of warning and the importance of talking about this. So why isn't he still giving his own opinion, and not, why is he not giving his own opinion and not waiting until in 2 years or 3 years from now the ICJ will give a statement?
There is a legal, for us, it is a legal term, and the Secretary General and past Secretaries General have had that same opinion about labeling an event genocide. It has not stopped him or people who work for him of speaking out loudly against what is going on in Gaza, the violations of international law that we're seeing, the killings that we're seeing, and he will continue to do so, and we're well aware of the article. Sinan.
Thank you, Steph. Also have a few questions on Syria. I don't know if you see there are some footages show that government forces are humiliating people from Druze community by shaving off their mustache. Can I have a comment about that,
I
please?
mean, we've seen these videos like others on social media and the news. They're extremely concerning, and that's why we are very much eager to follow up with the government on their call for an investigation, and also on their commitment to hold people to account. The videos are shocking and highly disturbing.
One more question, if you don't mind. We know, like, this government, I mean, HTA's government has been in charge the last several months, and since then we saw a few massacres. Like a few months ago, we saw a massacre against Alawites, and we saw more than 50 women are missing from Alawite community. They've been taken to Idlib, which is the HTS stronghold place, and now we see another massacre against Druze. So the question is, does Secretary General believe this government, which is, I mean, their background is basically Al-Qaeda, can be in charge of such a country like Syria with diversity?
It's the facts are the facts. The government is in charge, right? And it has been widely recognized by the international community. They're in charge, and in any country, once you're in charge, you have responsibilities. And I think they need to be held to account in how they fulfill those responsibilities to all the citizens of Syria.
One more follow-up, please. I know, Secretary General, you mentioned that ask for transparency and investigation, but did United Nations or Secretary General receive any transparency or investigation from the previous incidents?
I will check what information our political envoy had received on that. Kristen. So nice to see Al Jazeera share a microphone.
Thank you. Does the Secretary General have any comment on plans that have been, or a proposal that's been expressed by some Israeli government officials when it comes to moving Palestinians to a zone around Rafah for humanitarian, that would limit their freedom and center people there in order to get aid?
I think I've been asked that before. We continue to stand against any plan that leads to the forced displacement of people, or that gives false choices to people of either moving them into a pen, and I wouldn't use the H word for that, or staying behind and being labeled as terrorists. It's not a choice. Again, I mean, we'll keep saying it, but there is a system to help people. And we had that system. It was working to ceasefire. All we're asking is to be allowed to work again. Alex, then Linda.
Thanks, Steph. I have a question on the GCPOA. Have the US or the UK, Germany, or France officially notified?
No, we have.
So it's not.
I checked as of yesterday. We had not received any official letter.
Thank you.
Ms. Fasulo.
Thank you, Steph. Apropos of Gaza, I was just wondering, I mean, we know that the Secretary General favors, so many people favor a ceasefire there, but does he have a view in terms of what role perhaps Hamas should play in post-ceasefire world?
Let's get a ceasefire. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the humanitarian aid in. For our part, and we've been very clear on this, we recognize the Palestinian Authority as the legitimate representatives of the Palestinian people. We've always called and encouraged talks that would bring more unity to the Palestinian leadership. And then the people of Gaza and the Palestinians will need to decide the sort of government they want. Like everyone else, they have a right to choose. Okay, any questions online? Then I will release myself from your hold. Thank you. You'll have Stephanie tomorrow.